Today on Hands On Photography, you know what? I'm not even going to hint around to it. I have Mr. Rick Sammon joining us today on the show. Whew. Y'all stay tuned. This is going to be a good one.
This is TWiT.
We have a major announcement. Club TWiT. What is it? It's a members-only ad-free podcast service with a bonus TWiT Plus feed. Join the club for $7 per month, and you'll even get exclusive access to our members-only Discord channel. Be one of the first to join Club TWiT and be part of this movement. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and this is Hands On Photography here on TWiT TV. I hope you all are doing well, because you know what? I am unbelievable as always. This is the podcast where I like to sit down and share with you different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer and a better post processor. And heck, with today's episode, it's probably going to help make you a better human being, because the guest that I have on air for you all this week is not only the legendary Mr. Rick Sammon. Oh gosh, I just got to pop him up on the screen now. How you doing, Mr. Sammon? How you doing?
Well, I am doing great. I always say, you know, your mother would be so proud of you. You always call people Mr. like Mr. You're the only one who calls me Mr. Sammon. So she would be proud. You know, it's an honor to be here. And, you know, you said before that you're doing fantastic. I think you're actually a contender. I don't know if you know this, you know, it's traveling all around the internet. You're a contender for the Father of the Year. I see the pictures you post of your family, and, you know, all this photography stuff is great. And you see, I play music, but, yeah, you know, family is the most important thing. And I think, you know, you're such a great dad and a great human being.
Oh my goodness.
So it's an honor to be here.
My goodness. You're just trying to make me blush, and you're getting it done. Trust me. Oh, thank you so much for that. I do try, you know, and
I know you do.
And just like you said, there's some things in life that should take a priority. And yes, I have a studio full of beautiful, awesome gear that I just love hanging out with. But my family, they are number one, and they mean the world to me. And I will give them a hard time, but I love them, and I want the best for them. That's
called tough love.
Yes.
And, you know, when I review portfolios, you know, I give people tough love, you know, who wants to hear, oh, that's a great picture, right? You have to be honest.
That's right. That's right.
You really have to be and genuine. And I think that comes through. And I think it's just really important in all the things we do.
Amen to that. Amen to that. But thank you so much for joining me this week, sir. This has just been something that I've been hoping to have happen for quite a long time, because I've been a fan of yours for a long time. And I know that the chief TWiT, Mr. Leo Laporte, just absolutely loves you. I mentioned to him that I'll be having you on the show, and his face just lit up. Oh, Rick Sammon. I love Rick Sammon.
I love him too. We had a great time out there with Catherine Hall, and we did like a live shoot with him. It was so much fun. Oh, it was really a lot. He's amazing, right?
I love that man. I give him a hard time about his photography, because he gets all of this crazy gear, and it's just everybody drools over it. But then he'll go out and just snap something totally off the wall, and I'm like, what were you thinking?
But you know what, Ed? I'm working on a Kelby 1 class, you know, what makes a good picture. And really, I think what makes a good picture is if it makes you happy. Yeah. Right?
Right.
And it's totally the same thing with music, right? If it makes you happy, someone else may not think it's a good picture, a good piece of music. But I think if it brings you joy, if it brings you happiness, you know, that's the most important thing.
That's the thing that matters. Yeah, I give him a hard time on that, because also his wife, Miss Lisa, our CEO, I think she's a better photographer, as I wink into the camera.
I hope they're listening.
Just to give him a little bit of a jab.
Hey, Leo. Hi, Lisa. I hope you're listening. You could get in later about all this.
Oh, goodness. I love it. But I wanted to talk to you today because I've been diving into your book, this one here, Photo Quest, from Rick Sammon. Folks, go check that out. It's available online, Amazon, a bunch of different places. And chapter 3 in particular talks about diving into and just grabbing your own personal superpower. And
yes,
when I think of superpowers, I think of the folks from Marvel and the Incredible Hulk, you know, just breaking down buildings or flying and things like that. But what is the superpower with regards to the world of the creative arts and photography?
Right. Well, before we get to like our photo superpowers, you mentioned the Marvel characters, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the most powerful superpower is Superman, right?
Right.
He can fly, has X-ray vision, bullets bounce off him, and all this other stuff. Well, he's a superhero, but look at Batman. Mm-hmm. Batman actually does not have any superpowers.
Nope. Right? He has tech, but no powers.
He uses his brain, he uses his courage, and he uses a belief in himself to make him a superpower. So in this chapter here I have on PhotoQuest, Discovering Your Superpower. Actually, this came about, you know, we were talking about our families before. Mm-hmm. This came about, I was having a conversation with my son. And I said, his name's Marco, because we've traveled around the world. We named him after Marco Polo.
So anyway, fitting.
You know, and he's good at a lot of different things. So he told me about the superpower. I said, "Oh, Marco, what makes you so dedicated that you can sit?" He's getting his PhD in finance, and it requires a lot of research, a lot of concentration, a lot of study.
Right.
So I said, "What gives you that power to do that?" And then he was like, he's a runner, and he accomplishes his goals in running, and he plays Magic, you know, Magic the Gathering, and he's really good at that. So he's good at a lot of different things. Like Scott Kelby's good at a lot of different things, right? He's good at photography. He's good at Photoshop. He's good at guitar, bass, drums.
He's a heck of a musician too.
Yeah, he plays all these different things. So what gives someone taking the, actually what you're doing, whether it's music or photography or any type of art or cooking, taking that out of the equation, what makes you good at what you do? Mm. And I think what that chapter is about is I've asked a lot of different people, what do they think is a superpower? And one person said it's attention to detail. And I think that's one thing my son has. Attention. He's a perfectionist. He's attention to a detail. Carlos Santana. Actually, I watched he has a master class that's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I think it's about 3 or 4 hours. And not 1 minute in this class is devoted to tech stuff, like a guitar scale or where to press the notes. Like it'd be like the equivalent of in photography, talking about f-stops and shutter speeds and he doesn't talk about that. He talks about feeling, that you have to feel the music and you have to feel the guitar. He says you basically have to make love to the guitar. Right. And so he's not talking technical. So it's his spirituality, his love. That's his superpower. And I think if we ask ourselves, if we discover what our superpower is, or superpowers are, because we could have more than one. I think it could help us become better photographers or better artists or better musicians or better teachers or better educators, you know, better whatever, because we understand that, hey, you know, I have this power. So I'm sure you feel the same way. People who are good at one thing are good at a lot of things.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And another thing that really gets me with your remarks is just the emotional side of it. I've had the pleasure of just hanging out with people over the years doing street photography. I do like a meetup, if you will. Mm-hmm. And every time I've been able to go out and I start to frame up a shot, the questions was why are you looking at that instead of looking at this kind of thing? And I always told them, well, it feels right. that's why I do it. You know, it feels right. And after I click the shutter, for me, there's a certain emotion that I feel. And that stays with me all the way to the time when I get back to my desk and pull it up in post. And even in my post processing, it comes from a feeling. It may not be perfectly exposed, but it was a feeling that I had. And those shots, when I share them out, those are usually the ones that are the most engaging, because people can feel that I felt something in that and not just went through all of the tech specs of proper shutter speed, proper aperture and ISO and yada, yada, yada.
Right. So I think, not being an expert on diagnosing superpowers, but I think, maybe one or two of your superpowers is really, you mentioned emotion.
Right.
So I think you're a very caring person. Otherwise, maybe you wouldn't be doing this, right? You have to be a caring, loving person to, interview people, right, and give them the stage and do all this other stuff.
Right.
So I think you're, and I also think another one of your superpowers, and I talk about this in the book, is emotional intelligence. And I had getting back to my son, I've had this discussion with him. He's getting a PhD in finance. That's great. But I said, Marco, you still have to have emotional intelligence. And I know a lot of photographers, for example, I won't say a lot. I know some photographers who don't have emotional intelligence. They'll do anything to get the shot. If they're on a workshop, they'll go in front of someone else. Actually, some workshop leaders, they'll go in someone else.
Oh.
Or they're photographing someone in India and they won't respect the subject. Or they're photographing wildlife and they're not listening. They don't know what's going on around. So having emotion, and Daniel Goleman wrote a book, Photo Intelligence, then Emotional Intelligence, and then Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And I actually recommend these books to my students because Steve Jobs, what level of emotional intelligence did he have? Right. When he was designing these, he wanted the people to have an experience, right? He wasn't thinking, I'm looking at my laptop over there with the curves that look sexy. He had emotional intelligence. And I think this is one of the key things that we need to be as photographers and people. And just one more thing about my son. You have to be aware of everything that's going on around you.
Right.
When he was 5 years old, I was scuba diving around the world. And I would be so dedicated to get one picture. I'd stay underwater for an hour to get one picture. And I just say I'd come up sometimes and go back. I had to get the shot. So one day we're shopping where he's 5. We're at the supermarket and he's looking at all the different cereals, Captain Crunch and all the unhealthy stuff.
Of course, the perfect ones for kids.
Trying to steer him right. But then I realized this is like me underwater, focused, trying to get a shot. So I think we have to be we have to have our radar out, right?
Right.
Like you're too young to remember My Favorite Martian, a TV show in the 60s. But maybe some of your listeners do.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So he had antenna. So if we have our radar on all the time, if we have emotional intelligence, we'll be, and that street scene that you said you liked, and why is someone else shooting this? Your emotional intelligence drew you to that, and you saw something there. So I think emotional intelligence is really important to have, among other things.
I love it. Now, digging more into the emotional intelligence, let's think about, because you sent a set of photos over for me to look at, and one of them really got my attention. And it's not taken here in the U.S., so that means there's going to be some cultural differences. Yeah. And a lot of times as a photographer, we have to be cognizant of those cultural differences. We can't just walk up and snap a shot of this object or that person just willy-nilly because we think it looks good.
Yeah.
So we have to really understand what's going on there. And there's a photograph that you snapped that's just mind-blowing, not only because of the subject matter, but also the technical creativity that you use to capture this shot. You care to share some more information about it? I'm actually going to pull it up on the screen here in a second, though.
Okay. Well, while you're pulling up, the key to getting this shot actually was emotional intelligence, having my radar out, knowing what was going on. So this picture was taken in Papua New Guinea at what's called a Sing Sing. And what happens at a Sing Sing is clans from all over Papua New Guinea get together in the highlands, which is like the rainforest. And the clans dance and they sing and they chant all day long. And it's kind of like a competition.
Right.
So I have what I call, I think you've heard me talk about it, my one picture promise. And what my one picture promise is this, that if you could only take one picture, what would that one picture be? I promise you that you'll get a higher percentage of good pictures. So in a landscape, it might be, your composition, or you might wait for the right time of day. But here at the Sing Sing, I have my radar, my favorite Martian antenna up, And I said, this is the man I want to photograph. So anyway, they're dancing. It's like a parade. And I said, I really want to get a shot of this man. So I jump into the parade, and I'm basically, I'm not a good dancer, so I'm faking dancing back. I'm faking dancing back, but holding my camera. But before I took the picture, I'm just smiling at him and giving the okay sign and saying, and just being really happy and showing, wow, this is like just incredible. And you can see that I made a connection with him. Right. Now, there are over 700 languages. I think it's actually close to 800 languages in Papua New Guinea because it's so hilly there. Right. And the clearance didn't go over. So anyway, I don't speak his language. Turns out he didn't speak English, but I made this connection. So after I made that connection, I kept the distance. This is taken with a 24 to 105 at about maybe 50 millimeters. I'm not right in his face. I turned on my flash because I wanted to bring out the detail in his eyes, Right. The Greeks said, the eyes are the window to the soul. Karsha of Ottawa, very famous photographer, took credit for that saying, actually, lived in Canada. But it is true. Eyes are the window to the soul. So I turned on my flash, and I know how to balance the light from my flash to the available light so it doesn't look like a flash shot with the harsh daylight, with the harsh shadow. But you can see the catch light in his eyes. Yes. So,
see, that's the thing. You're outside. Yeah. There's plenty of daylight out there. Yeah. And so a typical novice photographer, they're probably going to say, why do I need to turn on a flash? I'm outside. What's the point of this? But that's knowledge and practice over many years that you're bringing to the table right there. And the simplicity of saying, let me get the detail of his eyes and let me just get that natural catch light. And for people that don't quite know what a catch light is, if you look at our screen, like I'll put it on my camera here, I have this key light right here. Yeah. And it gives a catch light right into my eyes. And that basically just gives me a little bit more life on the screen. It gives me a little more depth and a natural look. If you take that away, it totally changes the scene and totally changes the emotion of the scene. And you can put that in pretty much all of your portrait photography, even if it's outside, like Mr. Sammon has on his shot here.
And even for animals, there's a saying in wildlife photography that if you don't have the catch light in the animal's eyes, you might as well, be photographing like a stuffed fox or something. It looks like it's taxidermied, right? Right. So now I don't have that much catch light in my eyes because if I had catch light in my eyes, I'm 71, so it would also show the wrinkles. So I have nice, soft, flattering lighting around. But getting back to this. That catch light does make, if you look at the guys in the background, the other Hoolywigmen in the back, you can't see their eyes. So that catch light really made the subject come alive. So there's a lot of things that went into this. And by the way, I've written a lot of articles. If you could just go on Google and type in Rick Sammon, Daylight Fill-In Flash, Rick Sammon, S-A-M-M-O-N, Daylight Fill-In, a bunch of articles will come up. But the key is to make it not look like a flash picture. And in this case, it's a little tricky because we have detail in the man's beard, which is, almost white. Right. Actually white. And we have detail in the black paint on his face. Right. So I did do a little work in Photoshop. This was actually taken before Lightroom came out. But it's one of my favorite people pictures because, I feel I connected with this subject. And now, I think this guy worked out almost as much as you. I mean,
look at this man's shoulders. These delts are just.
I know. I think he works out as much as you.
Holy moly.
Right? Yeah.
Such great detail. I mean, and now, did you do any dodging and burning on his arm? So that's just the way the light caught it.
On his arms, that's the way the light caught it. I did tone down the highlights a little, in Photoshop and Lightroom. One of the first things I do is I look at the levels and then I check out the highlights and the shadows because I want it to look like it looks to my eyes. But I also, I've been doing, at this time I was doing it a while and I have been doing it a while. I wanted the subjects in the back blurred a little bit. Right. So I'm playing around with my aperture. So, the subject stands out in the frame. We see the world in 3 dimensions. Our cameras see 2. So we have to try to create that sense of depth and dimension. Right. And we can do that by using shadows and the shallow depth of field and a bunch of other things.
Oh, my goodness. Now, my question not post processing, but post taking this photograph. What was his reaction after you snapped all of these photos and you know, the parade is over with? Was there any interaction after the parade or between you?
Yes. And this is a really good question. I showed him the pictures, right? Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, you know, even back, this was taken, I don't know, about 8 years ago. They have email, right?
Right.
And all these guys know everybody. And actually, some of those guys in the picture, although they're Hooli Wigmen, some of them work in the oil field. So they all have phones and stuff. So I promised to send a picture, which I did. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. If you promise to send a picture, say you're in Papua New Guinea, if you take a picture of a Hooli Wigman, promise to send the picture. If you don't send the picture, the next time someone goes there, they're not going to let you take the picture.
Right. Right.
So I think it's really important. You know, we were in Sri Lanka recently, and we were photographing some children, and we said, okay, we'll send it. And there was a teacher there, we'll send it to the school. Okay, or we'll send it. We're in Myanmar, we'll send it to where it's messed up right now.
Yeah.
We'll send it to the monastery. Mm-hmm. So sending pictures is really important. But digital really has really made it so easy to share pictures. You know, when I started out in the 80s, we used to travel in 1975, actually, we traveled with the Polaroid camera, you know, and take the picture, give the person the Polaroid. But there's another reason, I think, you know, talk about emotional intelligence. I think that man knew I respected him. And this is really important too. We have to respect the subject, whether it's a person, an animal. Mm-hmm. If we're in a national park, you know, I've been in national parks and people jump the fences and they trample the ground.
That's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Yeah. Come on, people.
I know. They don't have respect. So having respect for the subject is just so very, very important.
Well, Mr. Sammon, this has just been an unbelievable experience. I really do appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. I appreciate you chatting with me over on social media and just your continued support of me, your continued support of the show, and just everything that you do for the photography community. It really does mean a lot, especially with people are battling a lot of things right now, whether it's regarding the pandemic or just whatever emotional things that people are struggling with these days, and they're able to pick up a camera and just start shooting, whether it's an iPhone, Android, mirrorless, whatever camera it is, and just being an encouraging light. I truly appreciate everything that you do for us in the photography community. So thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate you. And, you know, you are a good man. And, you know, we're all in this together. That's how I look at it. And I've always looked at it that way. And I encourage young people to think like that. You know, don't think, oh, I have to be better than you. You know, we're all in this together. Amen.
Now, where can folks find more of your work and even some of your workshops and things that you got going on? How can we get access to that information?
Yeah. ricksammon.com. Sounds like the fish, but it's SAMMON, ricksammon.com. And everything's there. My books, my videos. You just put some new music videos up there, which were kind of cool. So, yeah, everything's there.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Again, Mr. Sammon, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to talking to you soon, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pruitt.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Give me a second to catch my breath. Sorry. Yeah. No, I'm not sorry. I feel this. When I'm able to speak with people like Mr. Sammon, it really does give me a rush, and it really does fire me up. And I hope that you all are just as fired up as I am and inspired to go out and to continue to create some beautiful art that you love first and foremost, and just do it for that. It really does make a difference. If you have any feedback or questions, comments, or just like some image critiques or things of that nature, feel free to shoot me an email at hop@twit.tv. Again, that's hop@twit.tv. Or you can just go ahead and tag me on social media. I am Ant_Pruitt on Twitter, as well as Ant_Pruitt on Instagram. I really do enjoy chatting with all of you folks there. It does make a difference in my day. If I'm having a bad day and I get tagged from you folks from the show, It is quite heartwarming, and it does mean a lot. And lastly, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe in whatever podcast application that you're enjoying this on, or even if it's YouTube, make sure you subscribe, and then make sure you give us a nice rating and comment. You know, it does help us out. It helps to grow the show and help grow the hands-on photography community. And just check out all of our subscription options on the website, twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP for hands-on photography. Check out all the previous episodes and show notes there. And this episode will have a lot of show notes in it because he's referenced quite a bit of information, and I can't wait to share all of that information with you all. But until then, folks, check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. I appreciate all of the support, and we will catch you all next time here on Hands On Photography. So now you all safely create and dominate, and we'll catch you next time. Y'all take care.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you are interested in checking out all things smart home and Internet of Things, then you should check out Smart Tech Today, the podcast I, Micah Sargent, do with my co-host Matthew Casanelli. It's all about the smart home and improving your automations.